Hi everyone, my name's Connor Lemon, and today I want to talk about why we dream and how dreaming can lead to better creativity, innovation, and memory. Now, all of us dream. It's something that happens every night for each and every single one of us, and yet many of us still don't understand why we dream and how it can impact our lives. Today I want to talk about that why and that how of how it can better make you a better person in the workplace and a better person in real life. So the first thing we have to understand is the mystery behind dreams. Everyone dreams for about 2 hours every single night. If you add that up over the course of your life, that adds to about 6 years of your entire life that you spend just dreaming. And even though we spend so much time dreaming, we still don't fully understand why we dream every single night and how that can be an impact in our lives. And that's something that I want to talk about today, is the impact and how our dreams can impact our creativity, innovation, and memory. The first thing we need to go through is the science of dreaming. Now, when we are dreaming, we're going through that sleep cycle called REM. During REM sleep, that's when our brain is highly active, even though our body is still primarily still. We go through around 4 to 6 REM cycles each night, and that's why we can have several different dreams throughout the night. And even though as we're dreaming, usually people remember their last dream as that's the last REM cycle they go through. There's a lot of different reasons behind why we dream. The first thing is what's actually going inside our brain. So first, the frontal cortex actually shuts down, and that's kind of the logistical side of your brain. And that's the part that really leads to that logic. As that logic goes down, we still have that visual cortex and our amygdala that are still working, kind of firing on all cylinders. And that's why our dreams can be highly emotional, and it can be very vivid, even though it's highly illogical as well. And there's several different theories behind why we dream that scientists have put out. The first is that memory consolidation of we're having all these different things happen throughout the day or throughout the week, and our brain is just trying to process all that information. The next is the same thing with emotional processing. We have a lot of different things that emotionally impact us, all the different feelings we experience, and so while our brain's trying to process those sorts of things, that's what leads to us creating dreams. Another theory is the threat simulation theory, in that our brain is trying to present basically ourselves with future dangers that may occur, so that when those dangers actually happen, we have this response already in necessarily our subconscious to be able to react to those. And the final is the activation synthesis theory, and that's kind of similar to the first two, in that our brains are trying to process all the sorts of information, and it's also trying to make sense of all these random signals that are happening while we sleep. And that is kind of the science behind it now. But now the real thing I want to talk about today is, first I want to ask you this question. What if your next great idea came while you slept? Now you may be thinking, how can this actually help me, as I've been talking about the science behind it? But this is the true why of why I chose this today. What if your next business breakthrough, what if your next inspiration and what you want to do with your life comes while you sleep? That may sound absurd, but there's actually some real life examples of this happening. First, I want to talk about Larry Page. Larry Page is one of the founding members of Google, and one night while he was sleeping, he had this idea of all these different, while they were building Google, with all these different like hyperlinks and all these different websites, and what if there's a way to actually like order them and be able to have it come out in a smooth process. Now in this dream, the bits and pieces that he got, he woke up and wrote it down, and this actually became the foundational code and the core of what Google does now, where if you search something, kind of like a list of like what Google recommends down of the websites based on your search engine. And all that came from Larry Page having a dream. The next is Paul McCartney from the Beatles. He claims that the melody of Yesterday, one of the most iconic songs from the Beatles, actually came to him while he slept. He woke up with this melody in his head, he wrote it down, and that's the basis of what we know from the song Yesterday, which is one of my favorite songs personally. The next is Dmitry Meldarev, and he is one of the people he's one of the scientists, but really the core scientist that made the periodic table. And there's all these different accounts of this dream he had he was still trying to figure out the periodic table with all the different elements, and he had this dream where all these different elements kind of fell into place, and that's where we get the common design of the periodic table that we have now. The last here is Otto Levy. He is someone who got a Nobel Peace Prize for this experiment with the brain, and this experiment that he got actually came to him in a dream, and that when he started to replicate this experience he had from the dream, that's what led to this breakthrough in his experience with these dreams. Now, why this kind of leads to these different experiences, but now I want to talk about why do these dreams matter for you personally, not for these people in the past. Dreaming can lead to not only these breakthroughs, but help you kind of feed and nourish your creativity in your life. As all of us are in the stage of life where we're trying to find where we are in the world and what we need to do in our personal lives, we can kind of go into our dreams and use those to be able to nourish our creativity, better realize and better practice problem solving. It can help our memory, our innovation, and our emotional health. As we go through all the different things with school, life, and work, our dreams can help process those things, and then as we write down our dreams or really take inspiration from them, it can help us in this uncommon area. I know, before I started looking into dreams and why they matter, I thought they're kind of cool. Sometimes I have a cool dream where I'm flying, but I never saw them as an asset in my personal and professional life. But as I've better understood that as we use our dreams, they can become a tool into helping us become more successful in our lives. Now, I've talked about a lot of things, but there's three main takeaways I want you to have from this. The first is REM, understanding the importance of REM sleep, in that there's the 4 to 6 cycles a night, and that is actually when we dream. The next is the different theories behind it that I talked about, whether it was memory consolidation, activation synthesis, or threat simulation, whatever it may be. I want you to better understand that these are the things that scientists believe and why our brain actually dreams. And the last and most important is inspiration. I want you to understand, as I'm beginning to understand, that dreams matter. Dreams can matter to you in your life. And that as you begin to take this inspiration from dreams and do what I'm doing now, and maybe even starting a dream journal, that's what I'd recommend to you, is as you take these dreams, you can use them and even find some inspiration. Now, I'm not going to guarantee to you that the next time you dream, you're going to come up with this great idea that will lead you to becoming super successful in your life. But hey, in this world where everyone's trying to get an advantage in their lives, I can promise you that dreaming can be that tool and asset for you. And the next breakthrough you make could just be one dream away. Thank you.